Hi, everybody. Hopefully, this is live. And let's see, I'm trying to watch this on YouTube and if that is occurring. I don't see it on YouTube. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Um, so anyway, hopefully everybody is having fun and want to thank everybody for being here, assuming there are people being here. So basically, let me get this started. And frankly, for my guys supporting us, Instagram is not going to happen today. That's a separate issue. We will talk about that later. But what I wanted to do was, um, what happened was I have a lot of friends. I worked at Walmart, people know that, and I had a lot of friends who were laid off at Walmart. I've also had lots of friends who have been laid off from different places at different points in time. And fundamentally, the problem has been that, these people don't exist. I mentioned previously with, in some jokes that my friend, sorry, Dave, I forgot Dave's last name at the moment, but Dave he was CISO of the IRS, then became CISO of M&T Bank. And then all of a sudden what happened was, when he left that job at M&T Bank, he couldn't get a return phone call. He was joking. He's like, I went from being a VVIP to being a PIP. I'm like, what's a PIP? He's like, previously important person. Because he would joke, he's like, people who are willing to fly me to Mexico with my wife to attend an event are no longer even going to give me a free expo pass at RSA. And he frankly was not going to be suffering. He made a lot more money than the average person, but I know people who are living paycheck to paycheck who all of a sudden lost their paycheck. And then previously what I did was I previously criticized RSA, not RSA, sorry, RSA is good. I previously criticized ISC squared because they were trying to grow the profession while many people in the profession have been out of work. And so what I thought was I can't be a hypocrite. Yes, I run CruiseCon where, this is an event, it's a premium event for people. And some people want to go for the networking, even if they're out of work. And fine, contact me. I'll give you discounts if you are out of work. But at the same time, we need to go ahead and support these people. These are our coworkers. They're our past and our future coworkers. And to the best we can, we need to make sure that they're not floundering. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that we were providing content for them. And Steve Shelton with Green Shoe Consulting, he specialized, like I contacted Steve about being a speaker at an upcoming CruiseCon on reducing CISO burnout and reducing burnout as a whole. But then he also is an expert in dealing with layoffs, career transitions, and everything else. So with that, I wanted to make sure I was providing content. And when I spoke to Steve, he actually has a 4-week course. Well, I don't know if you call it a course or sessions, a program, that's the word, program, and helping people overcome layoffs. I mean, I'm hoping it won't be 4 weeks if you're sitting here watching this. But anyway, with that, um, this is going to be the start of a 4-week program. It's going to be live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. East Coast time, 8 a.m. Pacific. You can figure it out from your own time zones in between, and if you're in Europe or wherever else. But just to set a couple ground rules, I think Steve will cover this later. But again, this session is going to be recorded. If you want to ask questions, you can ask them via YouTube, and you have to subscribe to the CruiseCon channel, I think, to ask questions during the live chat. And we will try to answer them during, but also afterwards, we're going to have a Zoom call where people are going to be able to go ahead and interact privately, because obviously this is on YouTube, it's open to everyone on the internet. So we want you to all be able to ask questions in more of a safe space than having it publicly available. And with that, I'm just going to switch over to Steve to take over from here. I'm actually getting over a cold, so I'm going to try to talk very little, if at all, And frankly, this again is Steve's area of specialty, so you don't even need me.
Thank you very much, Ira. Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting next. So we're going to have 4 sessions, as Ira mentioned, and we're going to be working out some of the bugs or technical components of this as we go along too. So we appreciate everybody's patience and willingness to join and share in. So before we get started, Ira, I put in the chat for StreamYard, the Zoom link for the session immediately after this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's viewable through YouTube or how that works. I just want to make sure you're aware, and if you can share that's available.
I will figure out a way, and perhaps what I'll do is I will cut and paste it on the CruiseCon LinkedIn channel. That's might be the safest way. Anyway, thanks.
Okay. And then I'm going to make sure that I've got my presentation up and running, which Ira's going to get going there for me too as well. Awesome. So this is my expertise in this space comes from managing mental and emotional states. So the idea is a layoff is an involuntary job loss. So it's not necessarily part of your decision unless you take a package to leave the organization. But even so, there's a variety of things that impact us mentally and emotionally. So being able to maintain positivity, optimism, resilience, and being able to bounce back when we deal with some adversity, that's my expertise. And so what we're going to focus on today is, if I can move forward on the presentation, the objectives for this whole session, but specifically for today's session, is to the space is, to Ira's point, meant to be a psychologically safe space. Because this is live streaming on YouTube, we're not going to have confidentiality in this space. That's what the Zoom session is for. But what we want to do, is providing a space for everybody that's dealing with the job loss, the involuntary job loss, a layoff, RIF, whatever it is. Oftentimes, when we're going through this experience, it's very easy to feel isolated, to feel some shame or embarrassment over those types of things. And so those feelings of shame, embarrassment, etc., lead to a lot of people isolating themselves, opposed to seeking out support, which is more of a resilience type of strategy and tactic. So a big aspect of this is just pulling folks together that are dealing with a shared experience to be able to lean on each other, gain some support, some advice, some feedback, and learn some skills that'll help you manage your mindset to notice when you're dipping into those feelings that are taking you out of being your best, like shame, embarrassment, fear. And then how do we redirect our focus and attention onto the things that we can control, but also allow us to feel positive, optimistic, resilient. What we're going to do today is we're going to do a few things. We're going to have a structure to each one of these sessions. So the first thing that we'll do is a check-in, be able to allow, and this will be more for the Zoom session for the check-in piece. I don't think YouTube is going to allow us to do that. Unless it does, Ira, let me know if folks are able to check in once we get into that in the next slide. But we're going to build out this idea of how do we identify our support structure and create an individual support map, so to speak. Outside of that, then we're going to get into some ways that we can start actually empowering ourselves, so that way we can start taking action, because action is what allows us to focus on the things that we can control and not allow fear to paralyze us to an extent, so to speak. Outside of that, we're going to talk about both emotional and instrumental aids. I'll explain what that actually means, but then we're going to wrap up with 2 specific actions that everybody can take to start creating some momentum and, again, focusing on what you can control. So moving forward, I want to check in real quickly. Anybody that's listening and involved in this, or at least participating, a 1-word check-in about how you're feeling right now in the moment. So what you're seeing here is a picture in psychology. We refer to this as the feelings wheel. This is a very easy way to, express how you're feeling in the moment. And when we can name it, we can then allow that not to control us, so to speak. So the idea here is, in the inner circle, the 6 primary feelings, there's different descriptors or words that we can use for these, but essentially when you look at this as sad, mad, scared, joyful, powerful, and peaceful, the majority of those feelings, 50% of those are negative or not necessarily positive, the sad, mad, scared. But it's an idea because of our brains and the way that they've developed over human evolution or human history, our default is survival. So when you look at sad, mad, scared, those are part of the survival instinct to ensure that we're looking at any stimulus in our environment to ensure that it's not going to cause us harm or kill us. And the challenge for most of us is that our threats today in our environments are no longer saber-toothed tigers or bears out in the wild. It's really other people's opinions, expectations, and judgments. So being aware of these things, looking and investigating into, well, if you're feeling sad and checking in, what's leading to that? And then how do we start to really investigate and understand, are we thinking about things in a way that's helpful and healthy? Or are we thinking about things in a way that's actually causing more challenge and suffering for us? So with that being said, the check-in, I will also add as a personal check-in while I'm feeling a lot of joy. I'm also feeling fairly mad and sad because of the fact I experienced my first catalytic converter being stolen off of my car yesterday. So not a super joyful moment for me. That being said, I'm also joyful to be here. So let's move into this concept of identifying this personal support map. So the idea being here, let me make sure I've got my stuff. I don't want to share that with everybody, but the idea here is that we're really looking into building an idea of where does our support come from? Because of the fact we wanted to find out two components. So if you have a notepad and a pen, or if you're typing notes on your computer, really defining what close support means and the power of close support. So support comes in two flavors. There's emotional support and instrumental support. Emotional support is when you're interacting with somebody that you have a relationship with and that you've got maybe a bit of a deeper relationship. That's the inner circle, the closest people to you. So if you're married, if it's your significant other, your partner, your spouse, if you have a very close friend that you've been friends with for a long time and knows you really well, the emotional support that you'll get from those relationships is you'll get empathy, you'll get encouragement. Hopefully you'll get an unconditional listening ear as well. So the ability just to vent to somebody and express the fears, the sadness, the anger, whatever it is that you're feeling in the moment is really, really important to be able to share that, because otherwise you're just holding that in. And it's very reminiscent to me of when we don't resolve these feelings, if we let sadness, fear, anger continue to compound, it's like throwing big bricks into a bag. And so if you think about a big burlap bag, every time you feel that fear, anger, resentment, sadness, whatever it is, throwing a brick into that bag. And if you don't resolve that, you tend to just add more bricks into that bag, and it gets heavier and harder to carry. So the idea is be able to understand your support network, and that's emotional support. Instrumental support is tangible help. So this is the type of stuff of, especially when you've experienced a layoff or a RIF or whatever it is, well, now you're focused with grieving that loss and then also taking action to resolve the situation, finding a next job, doing something that allows you to maintain some control and get back on track financially, career-wise, whatever it is. But that tangible help, the instrumental support, is things like proofreading your resume. It's if you don't have a car, getting a ride to an interview, sharing a job lead. These types of things, when you can ask for tangible help like this, is what allows us to actually have support and get movement and momentum towards that ultimate goal, getting a job, next step, whatever it is. Both of these are really crucial when you're navigating the emotional ups and downs of involuntary job loss. So emotional support helps you process disappointment and maintain hope. Hope, optimism, positivity, resilience, that's what we're here to help develop and maintain. And then that instrumental support lightens the practical burden so you can focus on what matters, right? So a big part of this also is that if you have been in the job seeking space for some period of time, you might start getting losing hope. You might start getting frustrated, irritated, annoyed, all these things that make it really challenging to show up as your best. And when you start dipping towards that despair or desperation, that is not energy or an appearance that attracts other people. So we want to continue to be aware of, are we dipping into that space of fear, sadness, anger, resentment, despair, and then redirecting that attention back into the things that we can control, and also knowing that we have a lot of good things, a lot of value, a lot of skills that others will want to have. So maintaining focus on those things. So what I'd like everybody to do, we'll also get into this, we can talk through this in the Zoom session after this, but I'd like you to focus on that inner circle. Who are the 1, 2, or 3 people that are really, really close to you that you can lean on when you're having a hard time? Part of this allows us then to identify and visually see those that we have access to and support in that inner circle. And then as we extend outside of that circle, we're going to start getting into things in terms of that outer circle is going to be really people that you might be connected to on LinkedIn, but maybe you don't have a super tight relationship with them, but it is somebody that you've interacted with, or at least you're connected to in the community, that you could reach out to and say, hey, I know that you're working at this company. I saw this job opening. Would you be willing to pass my resume on for this position? Those types of things. So we're going to build out the various layers of relationships and support that you've got, because being able to have that visual is part of the way that our minds work, to be able to see that you're, one, not alone, like that you in the middle of the circles right there. But the idea is you're going to have people that we can actually have some strategies around to say, we want to be able to reach out to these people, that second, third, fourth circle, to be able to say, I need help reviewing my resume. I need help understanding, like, how do I get access to this person that might be hiring for this position, whatever it is. And then we can create some action plans around that. So what we would do here is offer up a few minutes for you to start putting some names into that inner circle, and then who's the relationships in the second circle that are not exactly as tight or as intimate as that inner circle, who are the ones that are close, that you have a good relationship, you're friends with, that type of thing. Those would go in the second circle. The third circle then would be maybe some acquaintances that you've talked to, but maybe you haven't talked to them that much over the past 6 months or a year. And that super outer circle is going to be the acquaintances you're connected to, but you don't have a great or tight relationship to. Hopefully that all makes sense. I know it's a little bit weird on YouTube Live, but if you have any questions, and Ira, I'm going to lean on you to be able to make sure that we're capturing anything on the YouTube portion for questions or comments. And then a couple other things I want to talk about here is people may be filling this out with names and contacts and that type of thing. I want you to aim for 2 to 3 people per circle, just to keep it simple. But research shows that having at least 1 or 2 people you can count on, people who truly get what you're going through, actually buffers stress, it lowers depression risk, and it keeps you motivated during the job search, right? One of the things that we can actually incorporate into this power of close support is this idea of accountability too, which we'll talk about later on. But the idea of, if you have people in your spheres of influence or power support or power of close support, then the idea is that you can pick 1, 2, 3 people to help keep you accountable based on specific needs, right? Now, there's 3 things outside of this that I also want to hit on. Loneliness compounds stress. So when you feel alone, when you feel alone, small setback can feel insurmountable. It can prevent you from moving forward, taking action, and doing the things that are actually going to help support and serve you. Secondly, perspective and accountability are extremely important, because a friend can remind you of your strengths, especially when you're stuck in a negative loop, mentally, emotionally, and they can help keep you on track with your daily goals. That's where the accountability comes into place. And these layers of support actually become a resource multiplier. So the idea is people in your network often open doors. Networking is one of the most powerful ways to find the next job. I'm sure most people on here, if you've applied online to any jobs on LinkedIn or Indeed, there was so much in the way of AI created job postings, ghost job postings, things that are not really real or available jobs that just make the job search really tiresome. So having a direct connection is why networking is so important, because people in your network often open doors to job leads, skill building classes, financial advice, things that we need to be able to take advantage of during this time. And you might not find these things on your own. That's the power of these things. Now, moving forward, there's a few things I want to hit on here in terms of, I just hit on the why close support matters, but also getting into some of the common barriers and missteps. This is a big deal because I know a lot of people in cybersecurity, there is an ego aspect we all have, that ability to focus on yourself, the I statements, I matter, I did these things. We also tie our identity into our work and our jobs at times. Not everybody does that, but a lot of people do. So understanding that many of us hesitate to ask for help. It's actually a detriment. So I want to acknowledge some of the common roadblocks. They're listed out here in the bottom of this slide, but the idea is pride and stigma. I should handle this myself. I was just on a podcast yesterday, and one of the participants was saying that I should have done this. I should have been able to handle this better, or whatever it is. The shoulds are expectations. We all have those expectations, whether that's our own that we're applying to ourselves, others that we really hold their opinions and judgments really with high regard. And so when we have these expectations, when we're not meeting those expectations, it breeds resentment and those aspects that don't allow us to be our best. So the idea is understanding we need to provide some self-compassion and some grace, because of the fact we all experience adversity. Life is hard. Life is not always fair. And when we add additional expectations on, which create resentment and bitterness and all these things that don't allow us to perform or show up as our best, it just makes things harder. So we're adding on to our suffering. Secondly, the fear of burdening others. This is a big one that I see quite a bit. I gave a stress management workshop a few months ago, and we were talking about how people find support. There was a very young cybersecurity engineer who said she uses AI engines like ChatGPT as a therapist because she doesn't want to burden her friends or family. Doing so, you eliminate a major human need in connection. That's one of the reasons why we're providing this space, is to allow everybody to connect with others going through a similar experience. And so this idea that those other people are busy, you don't want to be a nuisance, that all makes sense, but you're really missing out on the fact of, if you think about it the reverse way, if somebody else was in the midst of a job loss or looking for the next career, would you want to help that person out if you were able to? Most people would answer that as yes, I would want to help that person out. So the idea is, like, again, providing some self-compassion and some space to say, well, if I was in their shoes, I would want to help me out. That's a big aspect of this. So don't let that, or maybe change that focus and reframe it to something more empowering, because that's what this is all about as well. Having an unclear ask. What we're going to get to in a minute is talking about what are some clear ways that you can ask for some of that tangible instrumental help or support. And so when you have a generic mindset of, I'm not sure what I need, so I don't ask at all, that really shows that, one, fear is getting in the way of allowing you to do the work to really say, okay, where am I at objectively without emotion in this process? And what do I need right now? What's my goal? So if it's getting the next job, getting a paying job, starting your own business, whatever it is, understanding what you're wanting to do, defining that first, and then setting up, okay, what are the steps that I need to take to get me toward that goal? It's part of the process. And then the fourth common barrier or misstep is timing and fit. Asking too late or asking someone ill-equipped to help you out, right? The idea here is that I know people like the head of the security operations center for an insurance company. He will often go work career villages at different hackers conferences because one, he wants to help the community. Secondly, he wants to make sure that he's in a position of power to where he can help lift others up. That's what we want to look for, right? Who's in a position that is either above you, a peer, or somebody that has the ability that you can leverage to either provide some type of skill upskilling in terms of looking over your resume, updating your resume, um, effective interview handling and question responses and these types of things. How do we make sure that you have what you need to be able to accomplish what you're trying to achieve? So these missteps often lead to ambivalent or negative responses. You don't get the responses you want. And part of that actually impacts the stories that you might be telling yourself. I'm not good enough to be helped. People don't want to help me. People are too busy. So you get that negative or ambivalent response that you then use to justify, like, see, I knew that was going to happen. I shouldn't have tried. I got the negative outcome that I was fearing was going to happen. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you end up feeling misunderstood. You receive advice you didn't ask for, which is super frustrating, or having your request declined. And all of that can reinforce isolation. So for us, we really want to lean into what is it that is going to help you feel empowered, engaged, and moving forward. And now I want to move into, I don't think I have a slide for it. So I'm going to talk through this since I don't have a slide for it. I apologize. But what we're going to do now is take some action to start building out a support ask formula. There's 4 parts to this. 3 steps. So to overcome these hurdles that I just went through and that are listed here as the barriers and missteps, we're going to use a simple 3-step formula. The first part of it is context. The idea is to briefly state your situation. If you haven't thought through these things and you try to talk with somebody in hopes of getting a job or moving forward with a job posting or whatever it is, whatever you're trying to do, if you haven't thought through and really defined what it is that you're trying to ask or state your situation, it's essentially like a 30-second elevator pitch, right? So to be able to say, I've been laid off for 2 weeks and I'm starting my job search, that's a very direct, understandable statement. Opposed to saying, hey, I got let go. I'm really upset. My boss didn't like me, or this situation happened. You start to give all this ambiguous information that doesn't have anything to do with your current situation. That leads people to be confused in terms of what your ask is, right? Understanding your current situation is really, really important because that moves into step 2 of having a specific ask. So requesting exactly what you need. This becomes an aspect of requesting might sound like, would you be willing to review my resume to ensure it's clear and makes sense? Could you introduce me to someone in your network at XYZ company? Those things are very direct, they're simple to understand, and they're not big asks. They're the types of asks that would be low on the threatening level or scale of threatening level, if that makes sense. The third thing we want to do then is provide appreciation and flexibility. Acknowledge their time, offer options. So stating, I know you're busy, right? If now's not a good time, I completely understand. Even a 15-minute call next week would help if you're trying to get some feedback from them. The reason that this formula works is that it's clear, it's respectful, and it's easy to respond to. So again, those 3 components of the support ask formula are 1, context, briefly state your situation. 2, having a specific ask, request exactly what you need. And then 3, appreciation and flexibility, acknowledge their time and offer options. So what we would go into in this moment is providing a few minutes for everybody to write through, briefly state your situation. When did you get let go? What happened? And specifically, I've been laid off or I was let go 2 weeks ago. I'm now starting my job search, or it's been 6 months and I'm struggling to find an opportunity, right? There's a variety of ways to state your current situation. Secondly, then getting into that specific ask, what do you need, which requires you understanding what do you want, but what do you need in that moment from that person as part of your support power. And then third, appreciation, flexibility, understanding, acknowledging their time, offering options. But keep it 1 to 2 options, right? Now, outside of that, we're going to get into this daily home practice, right? So this is going to require you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Staying in the comfort zone is not going to lead you to getting the things that you want. Stretching yourself, feeling uncomfortable, doing things that may not feel natural is part of this process. So our home practice for today is going to be 2 specific things. I want you to reach out to one person on your support map, send a message simply sharing how you are. You're going to want to make sure you communicate with that person first to let them know why you're sending them a very short message on how you are. But the idea is that we're communicating these things, it's engaging, it's connecting, and it's getting you out of isolation. So that's one. We're going to do that daily. So I want you to reach out. It can be the same person every day. It can be somebody else. So you don't do the same person. However you want to structure this, I'm going to allow you to have choice in this. The second thing that we're going to do is a gratitude call or message. I want you to thank someone for a specific way that they've helped you. Gratitude kills fear. So this idea that we want to build positivity in our relationships, we want to engage and connect with people. It's, again, wanting to make sure that we're doing things and behaving in ways that build up optimism and positivity and resilience. And this ability to send a thank you message is very, very important to build these things up, because it gets your mind focused on and thinking about gratitude instead of fear. So I want you to think about every day between this day and next Wednesday. Every day, I want you to think of one person, and it doesn't have to be a big, huge gratitude message. It can be simply like, you know what? Ira put this together. Thank you for creating this space, right? So you can send a LinkedIn message to Ira. It could be, I've got a 15-year-old son. He has a challenge picking up after himself. So if I see him put his backpack where it goes after a day of summer school or whatever it is, then just simply acknowledging and texting him and saying, hey, thanks for putting your backpack away. I really appreciate that. Simple stuff like that. So outside of this, Ira, this is essentially what we've got to start off with. I know we ran through it a little bit quick. Any messages that we're seeing from the YouTube folks or anything like that that we want to pay attention to? And I'm not sure if Ira's still here or if I put him to sleep. And you are muted, Ira.
Okay, yeah, I had to find the right button. I didn't realize when we were done. Um so anyway, let me say this. Fortunately or unfortunately, we have, let's be honest, I think it's up and we don't have that many people on the call. I don't see any questions or whatever coming in or comments from the people. If anybody does want to ask a question or comment, please feel free to do so. Um, because this is the first time, I must admit, we really, we pushed it out through my LinkedIn and not much else. So I'm not expecting too much live. I'm expecting that people will watch it after the fact. Um, so, well, we just picked up one. But let me say this. I would probably say, I don't have anything else to add. I do appreciate you being on here. Sorry, I am still getting over that cold. But I don't know really how else to end this because it was scheduled for an hour, and frankly, it's fine we're ending. You have good content, and hopefully, I mean, frankly, it's actionable content. And I'm hoping that people will go ahead and take it into effect because, just for example, sending a note to people and saying thank you, like you recommended, is critical. And then also something I started doing when I was in a bad position was I just started liking people's comments on LinkedIn and stuff like that. Just trying to send positivity. Like when somebody gets a job, somebody graduates a college or something like that, just give a like because sometimes, just call it karma, being happy for other people eventually, being happy and congratulating other people should hopefully come back around to you at some point. With that, I mean, if you want to, I have the stats session shared on YouTube. If anybody's going to go into that, that's fine. If there's anybody there, this is Steve's Zoom link. So if everybody can go in there, that's great. Otherwise, I just want to thank people. Again, we're going to have another session next Wednesday, I believe, for purposes of people who are going to watch this on the recording. Session two is going to be on the 30th, again at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time. And it's going to be on again, taking what we learned today and bringing it forward. And with that, I will just go ahead and end it. And thank you. And Steve will hopefully go over the Zoom link. And if people show up, they show up. If not, who knows? Maybe it'll be a private session with Steve, which is invaluable. So thanks, Steve. Now you're on mute.
All right. I'll add two things. So I will open up the Zoom session now and keep it open until it's going to be 1 p.m. Eastern, I believe. So for the next hour and 20, just in case anyone joins. I will also put the PowerPoint presentation I went through as part of I think I can put that in the comments maybe. Or
Mhm.
if anybody needs it, just reach out to me at steve@greenshoeconsulting.com.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. And with that, we are going to end the live chat and hopefully we'll see people, we'll see the same people next week as well as new people by that time. Thank you again, everybody. Bye.